Well, here's a question for this evening. Is government making a dent in dealing with the frequent problem of false qualifications of those who are appointed to higher office in the public sector? Well, the latest example from the weekend is reports that former Correctional Services Director General Arthur Fraser faked his degree. Let's get the thoughts now of Chief Director of Public Service and Administration at the Technical Assistance Unit there. Here's Salomon Hoogenraad, Vermaak. Salomon, good evening to you. Thank you for your time. What did you make of the report in the newspaper when you saw it?
Good evening. No, I haven't read it yet, but it's interesting. It won't be the first allegations like that, and it won't be the last. But it has to be dealt with in terms of the facts that emerge, and that it must be dealt with according to that.
Help me understand and viewers understand what kind of criteria you would expect for someone in a higher public office to go through to vet their qualifications or their claimed qualifications.
In government, there's a process that if a person on a higher level is appointed, then the department that is appointing the person has to go through a personnel suitability check. And one of those criteria then is to check and assess the SAQA, via SAQA, the South African Qualifications Authority, to check the qualifications and make sure that it is indeed true. But it depends on if a person has been transferred, if a person is appointed. So there's a lot of things that need to be assessed. That's why I say, personally, from my point of view, I'm not a HR specialist, and I can't speculate on what happened here, because that is not something that there's a lot of issues that one has to address and look at.
And a number of those issues have been looked at, Salomon, by that very well-known journalist and author Jacques Poe, who's repeatedly asked for a simple certificate or a degree to be handed over by Mr. Arthur Fraser. It surely should be as simple as being able to provide that piece of paper. It shouldn't be this difficult, wouldn't you agree?
Yes, and that's why there's the norms and standards that's created and that the DPSA adopted indicate that the department needs to go and verify that information and assess themselves with if they are comfortable, and then they can make an appointment or not.
What would the Public Service and Administration Department now do off the back of a report like this? I understand details are fairly fresh, but what would the procedure be in a case like this?
The issue now is that Mr. Fraser is no longer a government employee. So there's not a lot that, from the point of view where I sit, and as I indicated, I'm not a HR specialist, but it's a bit of mustard after the meal. This is now, he's no longer a public servant.
I understood, of course, but he was put into the position and he made decisions for the country at various levels, and perhaps if the investigations are proven to be correct, they were under false pretenses. I imagine they would concern you terribly.
No, of course. That's why I say let us see what the outcome is, and then one can take it from that level.
And going forward, do you imagine there would be changes to how the department does this? You raised some of the shortcomings earlier. As of tomorrow, Monday morning, Salomon, what would you like to see come into place to prevent this happening in future?
You see, this is I take it, if I'm now correct, Mr. Fraser was a 5-year contract, so he would have been appointed around about 2017. So since 2017, there's been some changes in the way that we recruit people in the public service. One of that was amendment to the Z83, so which requires that a person indicate what is his qualifications, and then at the end of the day sign it and to make an affidavit to swear that that is correct, so that it becomes a legal document. And when it's then found that the person lied on this CV, then the department can take disciplinary action against the employee, and the person can be dismissed. And then, of course, the technical assistance unit can monitor to see whether there was these dismissals, and if there is in the discipline management disclosures per month, if this is raised, and then to follow up and make sure that where there is people that fabricate the qualifications, that there's action taken against them.
And I understand I'm speaking to you as part of the technical assistance unit, not HR. I fully understand that. To your point, though, that this would then stop it in future from happening with a current employee that's found to have lied about a CV. Surely there's a way to put a mechanism in place to hold those accountable who were found to be lying but have left the position. It can't be, as you said, mustard after the meal. That simply isn't good enough.
No, of course, but that's why I say it will depend on the situation. And I'm sure that there will be mechanisms in place that government can then address the situation and make sure that it doesn't happen again, but also that if there's a matter of accountability, that is addressed. But that would be only after there's investigation into this and the facts is verified, of course.
No, of course. No, in fact, still need to be verified. I understand it's still being investigated. Jacques Poe involved, as is Mr. Arthur Fraser. Last question to you then, if I may. Is there a scale of intensity and scrutiny based on the position a person would be hired for? So higher up the rank, if you will, there's more and more scrutiny, or is it all the same for everyone across the board?
No, I would imagine that it would be different for different categories. And I know that if there's appointments made by cabinet or so, then there's a lot of scrutiny that, as I said, that they look at the personnel suitability checks. And then one of those checks is to check also if the person has the relevant qualifications and if it's not fraudulent. And that is, even in certain circumstances, it's verified by the HR specialists and also by the DPSA when it's referred there to say that the department wants to make a appointment, and then it's scrutinized. And as I said, the departments itself also has the responsibility, especially on DDG level, DG level and HOD level, to then make sure that all the criteria is matched before they make an appointment.
Just the last question to you. I will leave it after this. The technical assistance unit, I imagine there would be a recommendation that the systems don't work. This is clear. If these allegations are true, there are loopholes. Would you agree with that sentiment?
Yes, of course. It's not only the technical assistance unit, but also the Public Service Commission has a role to verify the loopholes and to see what it is, because it is usually it's high-ranking cases like these that draw the attention. But in the public service, it's not that common that people fabricate and falsify their qualifications. But the Public Service Commission need to also then look at that and come to a conclusion that there's an issue, and also the unit need to assist with then plugging the loopholes in terms of norms and standards and policy development, so that it doesn't happen again if it is a frequent issue and a problem.
Well, I appreciate your time this Sunday evening. Mr. Salomon Hoogenraad, Vermaak, Chief Director, Technical Assistance Unit at the Department of Public Service and Administration. A conversation, no doubts, we'll take into the new week here on eNCA.